when you're talking to a female, you want to talk not you want to talk down about what you do, right? You don't want to talk up. For example, you don't want to be like, you know, I have $1 million. What you need to say is, man, I wish I had more than $1 million, right? Because you're speaking negatively, right? You're like, man, I wish I could do more, right? Because saying you have $1 million, that's bragging, right? That's you being arrogant. But if you say that, man, all I got is $1 million, I wish I had a way to make more, right? That it's the reverse psychology thing, right? It gave you the ability to point out that you have that $1 million, but without like trying to brag like I got $1 million, therefore that makes me important. Like if having $1 million is a big deal. So the idea is to make it not a big deal. So a lot of the stuff you do or have, try to make it seem like it's not that big of a deal, right? It's the whole being modest thing, right? Most chicks tend to like guys who are modest. Most chicks, they do want to be with a guy who's a millionaire. They want to be with a guy who's good looking, this, that, and third, but they tend to dislike it when a guy is like, yeah, I'm hot, I'm attractive, I'm good looking, blah, 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 right? Sounds arrogant. They tend to not like that. Yeah, I got money, I got money, I got money. They tend to not like that. I got cars, and the list goes on, right? So you always want to make sure you at least, are modest, right? That you're, you know, humble, as they say. That tends to be, that tends to work better. That tends to be more popular with the ladies than, you know, saying, them bragging, right? Saying you got money, you got this, you got that, you got clout, you know this person, you know people. Because it's kind of makes it sound like you're trying to validate yourself, right? You're trying to be like, hey, value me, view me as special, important because of these things. Because then it's the idea that it makes it sound like you having money is your personality, you having cars is your personality, and so forth and so forth. You don't want that to be your personality, right? You don't want that to be what you're representing, because one, that makes you sound materialistic, right? Cars, blah blah. Even though females are materialistic and they do gravitate to guys with a lot of materials, a lot of resources, right? But they prefer the guy to have personality, aka they talk about other things besides their materialistic things, right? Seems kind of weird since they are materialistic for them to have a problem with a guy, talking about his materialistic possessions. But I guess part of it is that they just don't want it to seem like the only reason they're with you is because of the materialistic stuff. But we know at least 80% of why they're with you is the materialistic stuff, because we all know if you're broke, they're not going to be with you, right? If you don't have a house and you live in your mom's basement, they're not going to be with you, and the list goes on, right? So, and if other chicks don't like you, they're not going to like you, right? And the list goes on. So, as much as they would like to be like, oh, I'm not materialistic, I'm not superficial, blah, 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 that is a lie. You can automatically see that they're, it's a lie, and they are materialistic and they are superficial. It's just by looking at them. You look at them and it's like, yep, you're superficial, materialistic. You know how I know why? Because you're wearing makeup, because you're dressed a certain way, you act a certain type of way. Your clothes are not, cheap, uh, uh, clearance sale clothing, right? Off brand, right? No, they're name brand. They're expensive. You probably didn't pay for them. Some guy paid for them, or the list goes on, right? So it's like, yeah, you're very materialistic, very superficial. So ladies can say one thing, but their actions and their appearance says otherwise, right? Just like they'd be like, oh, I'm more than, pretty face. I have personality. And it's like, okay, I've been talking to you for like 30 minutes and I haven't seen personality yet. All you've been doing is trying to be cute and moving around, positioning yourself in positions and poses like you're posing for me. and all I see is just your looks. I don't see your personality because you're not presenting your personality. So it's just funny sometimes when they try to make it seem like they do more than they actually do. So funny life, but yeah, like I said, it's like you want to make sure that she that you're not coming off as as materialistic yourself, right? Because sometimes I notice is that they tend to hate when a guy does what they do, right? So if a guy is like, yeah, I'm very popular with the ladies, they tend to not like that. But they have no problem bragging about how popular they are with guys, right? Oh, guys like me, I'm great, I'm perfect, blah, 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 right? I'm a 10. But when a guy does it, it tends to annoy them. It's like, that's kind of ironic. You do the same exact thing yet, but when I do it, it's a problem, right? That's weird, but okay, whatever. To each their own. The old saying, two wrongs don't make it right. So it's like, okay, so I'd rather, try to sound modest and humble. Sometimes this also helps you weed out the toxic females, right? If you're constantly being humble and constantly, you know, presenting yourself in a certain way where it's like you don't think highly of yourself and this that, right? It's the lack of confidence, right? So obviously typically females are attracted to guys who are confident, but there is times where you can test them, right? Shit test them like they should test us. You can shit test them with start you know acting like you have no confidence, right? Start talking down about yourself. And I don't mean do it all the time. I do this sometimes just to get a reaction from them. Especially if they're very quiet, they don't do much or say much. I tend to start, talking down about myself, right? You know, say that I'm not tall enough or something like that, right? Or I'm not big enough down there. That gets that gets girls riled up. Um, Especially if it's one way that I introduce or at least spark up sex talk is by talking about how inadequate I am physically, biologically, and that tends to get them worked up. So then they want to debate about the size. So that's one of my little tricks that I use to get a female into a conversation. Because sometimes, you know, you talk and they're just there listening. It's like, I need you to engage. I need you to talk back. Because that's the thing. Like I said before about the whole talking down about yourself, like downplaying yourself, is to help them, start talking more. Because a lot of times they'll talk less, and females, and it's always better to talk less. The idea is you talk less, right? You say less and have them say more. Because if they're talking more, then they're being around you more, right? They're staying there. They're engaged. They're more interested in you if they're talking. That's why sometimes just asking them questions about themselves to get them to talk about themselves, because they definitely like to talk about themselves because they know more about themselves than they know about anything else. So asking them questions about themselves, they're going to talk, which is good, because the main thing is the longer they're engaging with you, the longer they're talking with you, the more chances one thing lead to another, as they say. So if you want one thing to lead to another, a really good way of doing that would be to, start downplaying some of your accomplishments or some of, the things that's going on in your life. So that way it encourages them to want to, talk and, you know, try to encourage you and all that other, nice feminine stuff that we like. Just pointing that out.